accepted and that we could host you here. So while, before we go into your work, because I think more than the conversation between us or things that I ask you, of course I have many things to ask you, but it's your work that speaks loudest, and it's your work that we should spend the chunk of our time looking at. However, while this is being set up, let me just get to a few things that I know that you're a very prolific creator. I'm always in admiration of the extent and scope of your work, but also the sheer quantity of it, that you're able to bring out new work almost on a daily basis. And tell me how you do that. Tell me what your work schedules are like. How do you balance? I assume as a freelance artist, you also try to make a living. And I know that much of what you put out on Instagram is probably not something you're being paid for. So tell us about that. As an artist, how do you balance that? Because that's an issue that I deal with every day as well.
Thank you very much for having me here. Jai Bhim, everybody. Thank you for saying such nice things, and I thank myself for saying such nice things for myself as well, because I made you speak those. About my schedule and how I work. I used to have a studio when we studied from the same college and decades apart. But I started a studio. I was working as a commercial designer in Pune. And in Pune, I came across with this culture of Phule couple and the kind of work they did and the way they did it. And that really inspired me to be more than just a commercial designer, more than what I was taught at my college at NID. So I gave it a thought that I need to unlearn what I learned in my college as well. So it was basically out of this this curiosity that I had and this agitation I had about my own people, about my own family, because being born in a scheduled caste family, life is not as everybody's life is, or life is not like the life that is shown on television about our life, about how we are, how we live and everything. So I have uncles, like real uncles, who still sells ice cream, which most of you think that is made out of bad water or something like that. When I go to my hometown, I don't take the rickshaw, and there are some electric rickshaws now, but those cycle rickshaws. I don't take those rickshaws because it could be one of my relatives. So I do not want to make them feel bad, or I also feel really bad that some old fellow who is my own family member. I'm speaking here in English with you, in this lovely hall, and and there are still my family members who are not that well. We are trying to we cannot. There is a limit to how much you can try. There is this huge chunk of people who are still below certain standards that we have made as a society, economic, social, cultural, political, and everything. So I had this agitation for a very long time, and I've been living in a very inferiority complex about where I come from. I would lie to my friends about where my house is, or I had. In my college, I never let any of my friends meet my parents because, I had so much of inferiority complex. If they will come to my house, they'll see an Ambedkar, and, they'll know that, who I am. And so I think that agitation was enough for me to, to start something. And when I saw how Phule couple, both of them, they're working tirelessly, they're working with this sheer passion. I wanted to have, a bit of that passion. And I think that was enough for me to, start working towards the movement. So I started making illustrations around it. And even now, I earn most of the money out of the movement because I want to make, my aim of life is that, I want to make Ambedkarite art as commercialized as Gandhian art. Because if you see Gandhian art, there is there are proper museums. People have made their career out of it. They have spent 40 years, doing, Gandhian art. Why not with Ambedkar? And there was this one very interesting incident that happened, when I first started selling my prints, and they were a bit expensive. And people told me that, this is Ambedkar. Nobody is going to buy Ambedkar for like 12,000 rupees. And I was like, no, like, it is art, first of all. And, as an artist, I have my own subject, and, I think I'm able to explain what my subject is, and, I'm able to express what I feel about the subject. So I do not know why Ambedkar, would sell in cheaper price. And at that time, I thought that, I'm going to sell Ambedkar. I want to prepare my, community to be able to produce work which would be able to, have a commercial value. Because it's not something that I have started doing. It is something that has been happening for a very long time. I have seen these Ambedkar, paintings in my house, tiles, but it's only, that is an aesthetic that is, limited to a certain class of people or certain caste of, people. I want to take it, to a bigger level. Like, as we say that, Ambedkar is a hero of the nation as well. He's not just, a leader of the depressed classes. He worked for women as well. He worked for the laborers and workers as well. So I want to, with my art, I want to, depict, I want to create this sketch of him as a mainstream subject. And that was enough for me to move to Delhi and, start working on that. And I started to, find opportunities, create scope. That's what I studied at NID, that, how to find scope, how to, make opportunities, how to use the voids and everything. So I somehow started, thinking like an entrepreneur, but, working in a social sector. So yeah, and my schedule is, I just wake up in the morning, I spend a lot of time in having my first coffee, like almost 2 hours sometimes. And, the first thing that I do is I think about, what today is going to be like, what, everything, every day is a new day. Some projects are there which, carries on. But every day is a new day. I always think about, creating something new every day, because this life is very precious. And you never know, when is your last day. So I want to keep creating. I want to keep creating. I have studied history of art. I have seen how many artworks these people have created. Sometimes I think that it is impossible to create so much of work. And, but yeah, I can, there is this zeal that, I just want to create new. More important for me is not the work in progress, is the work that I'm going to do today, and I have to finish it today. I have to do it fast. I have to, think about it fast. I have to choose my color palette fast, make my storyboards fast. So as Baba Sahib said, that our life is a continuous struggle, and I think I enjoy this struggle now. And yeah, this is the whole day, and maybe I'll make it something, a lot of people have started, doing Ambedkarite art or doing, making stuff around it. And I think this is also an inspiring thing that, other people are also following. So maybe, you get even more excitement to do more and more and more. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, so your projection has been set up, and I think that was a beautiful intro to the work, and let's go and look at the work. Do we have the lights down a bit? Can we have the lights down, please?
Yeah. So, as we discussed, and thank you, Arijit, for this really interesting beginning of the conversation. So, most of the times we have seen pyramids, we relate pyramids to Egypt and other places. But, we have our own pyramid that, exists in our society, that pyramid of how our society is structured, how our society is made. In the top stays Brahmin, in the middle stays Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, in the bottom stays Shudras. And Dalits are out of this pyramid. We are the people who were once untouchables. Maybe, one should not touch this mic after, after me. And Dalit word comes, like it was first properly used by Mahatma Phule, and it meant divided, split, broken, scattered. And it can be, like for me, this word works in both ways. It is also, something which is in a negative sense. It is also something which is in a positive sense. It is very much dependent on the politics of this country, because as I have noticed, I've been working in this movement for some time, and I've noticed, what happens in Uttar Pradesh and Bihar might not work in Maharashtra or, in Telangana. So the whole Dalit narrative is very much dependent on the state. And the state that I come from is Uttar Pradesh, where Dalit is an identity that unifies, a lot of castes. And when you go to Maharashtra, it is, Ambedkarite Buddhist that connects everybody. So since I belong to the place where Dalit is the main identity, it is the reason people sometimes unite, so I emphasize more on this word, Dalit. Here are some visuals that I'm just going to show and not talk about. I only created these images, but this is somewhat, this is not how I see my community. This is how everybody else see my community. What everybody see, I have been brought up in a certain way of looking at my own community. Every film, every art, they have showed us like these colorless people, who have, who are malnutrition, they're working this menial work, and, they're somehow, still untouchable. If you see those visuals, they still look untouchables, which is not the reality. So my work is to see the other side as well, to see the side that, we have spent 70 years after the real independence that we got, that we untouchables got our independence not on 15th of August. We got our independence on 26th of January when, the Constitution was established, when untouchability was, legally removed from the, legal structure. Now, we are those people who built temples but were not allowed to go inside. We were the people, who created life out of, out of something which was impossible. Imagine, I come from the community called Chamar. So my ancestors used to tan leather. I used to feel so inferior about, my ancestors, what they used to do and everything. But when I went to NID, I realized that tanning is a process. Tanning is a process which involves a lot of science, which is a very, very intricate, which requires a very, very intricate craftsmanship. So when I tanned my first leather at NID, I became Chamar then. And then I made a weave, then I became a Julaha. Then I made a pot, which made me a Kumhar. So I learned that, all these ancestors, all these, people from my community, they were designers before design was, very celebrated, or, whatever field it used to be. It is now. We were scattered here and there. We were, we were looking here and there. We were not united, and, we needed a direction. Although, in different parts of country, there has been work that has taken place. There has been from Bhakti movement, even from before that, there have been Sant Ravidas, Sant Kabir Das, who comes from the marginalized communities and speaks about concepts such as Begumpura, which is an idealistic society where everybody is equal, and what development is, how development is for the society. So when I always talk about this with my friends that, communism was not started by Karl Marx. Communism always existed. When human beings started to, live together, communism started since then. He was the man who gave a modern definition of communism. Buddha was a communist. Ravidas was a communist. So if you see the theory, of how communism is, or what defines communism, we have been following communism for a very long time. Just that, our communism is not red, it's blue. So there was this one man who gave us direction, Baba Sahib Ambedkar. He gave us direction because he somehow united this all the depressed classes of this country. And how he did it was by getting educated, which we were not allowed. So a man gets educated, and then he starts to speak. You know, a man is getting educated in what? He is getting educated in what his ancestors has been producing. You know, he has been, you know, and he was not allowed to, you know, like I'm in Goa here, you know, if you are, all the Goans are, you know, banned from studying Portuguese. You cannot study Portuguese. You know, you're not allowed to do that. And you're here, and, you know, think about, you know, how will you, you know, trace your own history? You know, there are things written about you, everybody. How will you trace, you know, things about, you know, your own history? This was the case with so many people who were not allowed to read, who were not allowed to write. You know, there are things written about us, you know. There are things such as, you know, molten lead will be, you know, poured inside your ear if you hear Vedas. You know, your tongues will be cut if you speak Vedas. These things are written about us, but we can't read them. So, you know, maybe that's why our ancestors never knew which direction to take. But this man who everybody says that he did not study Sanskrit, you did not allow him to study Sanskrit. So he had to go out and study the translations. And when he read it, and, you know, he must have, if anybody, you know, any one of us would have read, you know, text which was so much against us, you know, anybody would have gotten agitated. And this man, I think, it was very natural for him, you know, to get this kind of agitation, and he asked for annihilation of caste. Like, annihilation of caste, I think, is the most leftist thought of India, because with annihilation of caste, you are restructuring the society. This will bring the cultural revolution that Mao brought in China. This is the only thing that can unite India as India. We talk about unity in diversity, but where is this unity in diversity? I really don't see that kind of unity. There is a unity in diversity in the, you know, maybe in the two, you know, top communities from the pyramid, but, you know, in the bottom there are no intercaste marriages. There are hardly any intercaste marriages. I can, you know, name people on my fingers. I can count them on my fingers, and we say that, you know, we are united and we are together. You know, there is nothing like this, you know, existing. We have not even produced mudbloods as per Harry Potter. You know, we are still not letting our blood mix. We are still discriminating against each other. This man questioned that. He brought these interesting concept of, you know, bringing Buddha and Karl Marx, and, you know, he studied India in a very different light. He was not like Nehru. You know, if you read Discovery of India, Nehru describes it as, you know, if a sun is rising, you know, Nehru would describe, you know, that the sun has risen 20 degrees, the sky is yellow and orange and red, and then, you know, it has grown to 50 degrees, the sky is now, you know, going a little blue and everything. Ambedkar did not had time to romanticize things, because he did not come from that, you know, that kind of a place. So if he would write, you know, how sun rises, he would write sun rises from the east and give a reference in the footnotes, which everybody else forgot. That's how our first scholar who went abroad and studied, he knew how to write things, not just to romanticize things. This is the real documentation. If you read any of his texts, it is a superb academic research, you know, and the language that he has used. You have to go through the word history, and, you know, you have to understand the word politics, even if you are reading a small booklet such as Annihilation of Caste. You know, he's talking about Ireland, he's talking about IRA, he's talking about British Parliament, he's talking about Roman Empire. So a well-read person made us think that, you know, we can be capable of even comparing Buddha, Aristotle, and Confucius. So he gave us this thought that, you know, we can think about things, not just in India, that we do not just want to unite. It is a very folly statement to think that Dalit revolution is all about uniting Indian depressed classes. I've just returned from a 50-year celebration of Dalit Panthers, which happened yesterday and day before yesterday. Yes, and we had people from Black Panther Party. We had people from J.V. Pawar sir was there from Dalit Panther Party, and a lot of Panthers were there. And I saw this solidarity, this international solidarity that has been there. It was established because of Dr. Ambedkar. When he was in Colombia, he was friends with people like Professor Seligman, W.E.B. Du Bois, and the writings the correspondence that he has with these international figures who are doing this tremendous work is just mind-boggling. He was staying in Harlem at the time when Harlem was going through this cultural revolution. Now, I always, as a creative person, I always imagine him, walking on the streets of Harlem, listening to the sound of, maybe somebody like Miles Davis, or somebody who wants to be like Miles Davis. There were so many things. There were so many poets where he was staying. He was staying in the middle of that. He was staying with the African American people. When Gandhi went abroad, when he was in South Africa, he made his own village. He was only concerned about his people. And he has said very derogatory things about the African people in South Africa. But Ambedkar was washing utensils with them, along with his college to make money and to pay the fees. So that's why he gives us a very different perspective. He gives us this this freedom to think about a global structure, global philosophies. He brought to us the forgotten leaders, who have worked in their regions. We never knew. In Uttar Pradesh, I had no clue. I would not have had any clue about Mahatma Phule or Ayankali or anybody, had it not been Baba Saheb Ambedkar, because he said it was him who said that it is not just me who has been doing it. It's been happening for centuries. I think, he said that Buddha was the first person who challenged the Brahminical structure, who challenged the Brahmanism. So he started to integrate everybody. He started to find out all these people, Phule's and Kabir, Sant Tukaram, Nyandev, and from all over the world. He gave us this perspective that you do not come from that from that community which was always broken, always scattered, always downtrodden. You also have this sense of achievement. You have some ideals, you have some personalities who have done things, which were greater than life. If we just think about Savitri Mai, when she would go from her house to the school, she was the first teacher who opened school for the girls in Pune. And when she would go, she would carry one sari with her, because while going on the way, from children to men to women, they would throw cow dung and mud and everything on her, and she would go to the school and change the sari, and then again while going back, again wear the dirty sari and go back, wash the sari, next day again she has been doing it for what? For just teaching students, girl students. She was the one who started giving adopt to the widows who were being sexually molested in their houses. And what did she get out of it? Little children throwing cow dung at her. Little children. That was the hate. So he brought these narratives in our mind. We were in the previous talk we were talking about Malcolm X and Ambedkar, and I really see a lot of similarities between these two. I see both of them were very radical at the way they would talk, they would think about their own community, and the zeal that they both possessed. The kind of, and so I tried to kind of draw a parallel also to my people and them who are our real allies, maybe better allies than the Brahmins and the Kshatriyas in the country. So I was born in a family where my father, me, my grandfather, we all had herd pigs. Pigs, which is mostly a slur for you, most of you, you say to people, "Suwar hai tu," "Suwar jaisi harkatein mat kar," or something like that. So what cows are for most of the India is what pigs are for most of us. And I see that, how not just us, who were dehumanized, even our animals are segregated. Our animals are also, discriminated against. We do not had any money to, herd cows or anything. What we could afford were pigs and goats. Goats, I remember my dadi used to have goats, 2 goats. And she was such a proud lady. Our pura makan was kacha, mud. And those 2 goats were like, some navlakha har for her. This is the best, achievement that she has got. and somehow, I don't know how to express that sentiment, but even our, what we eat, I don't know why it is not moving forward. Like from what we eat as well, it's not moving forward. Yeah. So even, what we eat, I would talk a little bit about what we eat. I'm not proud of, what we have been eating for centuries. So the cuisines in my house, one is, the chicken's niche wala legs, the bottom part which has nail, the claws. So, we fry that. We have a lot of dishes that are made up of, that are made out of blood, because it was of no use for the people. Organs are now expensive, liver and everything. It used to be something that was discarded. That's what we used to eat. The buffalo's tail, that's what we used to eat. The anus of every animal we used to eat. This was the, even from the animal, what kind of part will be given to, to the community was decided, in this way. If this would have moved forward, then this maybe I can just. So he brought us, what our ancestors were doing. This is an image that I recreated of Savitri Mai and Phule, Mahatma Phule. Now we do not have these kind of imagery. We do not have the documentation of our own community. So which I think is my role, is to document the history that has never been documented. There is only one pose that, Savitri Mai is going like this and, Mahatma Phule is going like this. The freedom that they had, behind there is Phulewada and, how, she's holding this her poem, Go Get Education. And imagine the thought process, Savitri Mai has written good things about Britishers, which most of the India would, say that, this is anti-national maybe. But imagine 2 masters, irrespective of where they come from. Imagine one master is not even letting you drink water from a public place. Imagine one master who is asking you to bind a broom on your waist so that when you walk, the road gets cleaned. You have to, wear a necklace of a pot so that if you have to spit, you spit on the pot. You cannot spit on the ground because you will make the ground dirty. So this was the kind of situation. And the other master, whether they're alien or whatever, they're saying, okay, we are evil, but we think that there is some sort of equality that is that can be given. Maybe that was also evil, but it was lesser evil for at least us. Because of them, we could go to school. I do not know if they would not have come here, we would have gone to school, or Ambedkar would have gone to school or not. So out of these 2 evils, they found the better evil was the British. And that is the narrative that sometimes disturbs the people a lot, that, why are they not a part of, freedom movement? We were a part of freedom movement. Ambedkar was a freedom fighter. He was fighting for 70% of population of India. The whole Swaraj movement and everything, the whole independence movement was run by upper caste. I do not trust them. We have seen monarchs come and go. They have discriminated against us. Even the Mughals who came made these people ministers and everything, and they kept the society as it is. Because of one man able to go abroad and study, we were able to trace our history. We were able to understand that, in this freedom movement, there were our people as well. There was Halkari Bai. There were so many other people who were there, but are never recognized. He talked about the sacrifices made by Mahars in Bhima Koregaon. We had no idea that our people were in armies. They were fighting. They also fought war against British. They never talk about Birsa Munda's, rebellion. First rebellion was done by Mangal Pandey. Nobody talks about Birsa Munda, and there have been rebellions before that in the tribal community. Maybe I do not know why they are not documented. Why the first freedom fighter is always Mangal Pandey. There have been rebellions before, but because it was done by people who are untouchables, tribals, jungly, or whatever stars, they were never documented. It was our time that we document things. In the modern times, people like Yoti Thas, they started bringing these revolutionary ideas that were there once in the time of Buddha. Now, he was the first person, even before Baba Sahib Ambedkar, who in Kerala brought Buddhism. He started talking about, how Buddhism can be a solution for the anti-Brahmanism concept. There are many views. Like I'm just an illustrator. I'm just somebody who is documenting things. There are many views. There is a view that we can get our emancipation through communism. We can get our emancipation through even centrist politics. But documenting this is very important, because even now, when I was there in the 50th anniversary of Dalit Panthers, there was no mainstream media. The hall was 3 times bigger than this. People were sitting on the stairs. Nobody documented it. This has been happening in the past. This is happening now also. That's why we need to make our own platforms. We need to be those entrepreneurs. Because when we will be those entrepreneurs, we will document our own history in our own way, in our own aesthetics, which might not go within the concept of the rasas and bhavas of the mainstream arts and design. With the Constitution of India, he started to lift us up. And in the 70 years, we have started making India. India is still made by our people. आप जाइए किसी कंस्ट्रक्शन हाउस में जहां पे कोई बिल्डिंग बन रही हो, पूछे किसकी जाति क्या है. Still our people. आप जाइए खेतों में, पूरा किसान मूवमेंट हुआ, everything was happening, in these big fields, where these farmers were coming with Hummers and everything. Who is working in those fields? Are they themselves working in those fields? I'll share one experience. I have a friend whose father has a lot of land, and in the Corona times, no labor would come, and he would not allow scheduled caste labor to come and work in his field. Now during the Corona time, nobody is working, and he says to his son that yaar ab to chamaro aur bhangyo se kaam karwana padega kya. This is still like, and the child who's my acquaintance, I know him, studied from the same college as I did. And he did not had courage enough to talk to his father, to discuss this to his father. At least I am proud of being in a Dalit family. At least I can discuss patriarchy with my father. I can discuss how you have made my mother suffer. I can go to the deepest, to the most cruelest, discussions with my parents. I have made my father cry because of, the kind of patriarchy that he was following, at certain point of time. I think I am proud that I was born in a family which is inspired by Baba Sahib Ambedkar, who made us, rational enough to even question our own parents, because when we not question our parents, we become our parents after some time. We think that we are very radical, we are very rational. My father tells me, there were a lot of communists when he was in college, wearing kurta and, sling bags in the side. And, they would say that, we will bring revolution. And they married in, as per their gotra and their caste and everything. So this is the, the whole concept of communism which has been perverted in India, which I call it Janeudhari communism. Mao must be crying, in the from the heavens, and Stalin would be crying from the heavens. Not just Ambedkar, Jaipal Munda. He comes from a tribal community. He went abroad and he studied. And he claimed that, this country belongs to us. Now this topic is very much happening these days, Kiska mandir hai, kiska masjid hai, and everything. Who made it first? We made everything first. We are the indigenous people of this country who are being enslaved. Everything was made by us. And you just fractured our legs again and again and again and again. And then, independence happens, and then everybody says that, after broken leg people, they're asking them to run. भाग के दिखाओ, भाग क्यों नहीं रहे हो तुम? हमें इक्वालिटी चाहिए, इक्विटी से कोई मतलब ही नहीं है. People who do not have any social capital are asked to, are asked about their merits and what not. सुअर चराने वाले घरों में जब आप रहोगे, तब आपसे मैं पूछूंगा कि आपका क्या मेरिट है. कच्चे मकानों में जब आप रहोगे, तब मैं आपसे पूछूंगा कि आपका क्या मेरिट है. उसके बाद आप किस तरीके से सोचते हो और मैं किस तरीके से सोचता हूं, मैं तब पूछूंगा कि आपका क्या मेरिट है. और मैं आपका मेरिट तब पूछूंगा जब इन 70 सालों में what you have given to the world, your intellectual, your intelligentsia, what has it given to the world? Where does India stands at the intellectual level? What new product have we made? What new philosophy have we made in these 70 years? We have these elite institutions, we are sending people abroad, doing PhDs and whatnot. So many times, there were people from, who were going abroad since the British time and then, are still going abroad. What is their contribution? How do we see, where do we see ourselves in the world map as intellectuals? What philosophy did we produce in these 70 years? This is Shahuji Maharaj and Baba Sahib Ambedkar. This picture is also for the style statement, because I am really mesmerized by this concept of style that Baba Sahib brought to us. As I showed you the previous pictures, with these, half-naked men and women, who are not properly clothed, he came with this concept that, I want my people to clothe well. Whenever I see sari, I see discrimination, because in earlier days, drapes could only be worn by the people who were from upper caste and upper class, and the stitched clothes would be worn by Dalits and Shudras. Longer your drape, the bigger is your class and caste. We were not even allowed to wear drapes because that would. I do not know. I do not understand the reason of, why even we had to wear that necklace of pot and, tie that broom on our waist. But yeah, whatever reason there was. He gave this concept to us that, we are not just, those people, like what Mahatma Gandhi said, I'm wearing this dhoti because half of my country's, wears dhoti and, is half naked. He said that I do not want to see my people half naked. I want to see them in suit and boot and everything fashionable. And that has changed a lot for a lot of people. That was a cultural revolution that he brought in a respective society, in a respective community. One might not have documented the Dalit culture or the culture of the scheduled castes. But if you start to look at it with that perspective now, you will see that Dalits have their own aesthetics. They have their own choices of color. It's not just kitsch. It's also high art. It's both. They have their own originality. Like we all are mesmerized with the African American culture. These days, everybody's trying to speak like them. They're trying to, walk like them, talk like them. Why did that happen? There were a lot of anomalies in their culture. We was going there. They still say that. Or hum sa, sha, sha mein phase hue hain. Oh, this person cannot differentiate between sa, sha, sha. So, let it be. Kahan se aayega fir ye culture, this hip hop and everything that you talk about? How does a culture does not develop on its own? It is developed by people. It is developed by the society and everything. And if you will, not even consider one culture, it will never happen. We already had punks. I always think about 1970s, the angry young man, Amitabh Bachchan. If you read history, there were only two movements that were happening at that point of time. One was Kisan movement and one was Dalit Panthers movement. In Kisan movement, everybody was trying to be seen as a Kisan. So even people from, from the communities who were well off, they would wear these dhotis and kurtas. And the Dalit Panthers were, opening these 3 buttons and, getting back and then, smoking cigarettes and everything. The angry young men of that time are these Dalit Panthers. No credit has been given. There was never a picture of, in 1970s, there was never a picture of Baba Saheb Ambedkar. I have never seen a slum where there is not a statue or a picture of Baba Saheb Ambedkar. So you were telling lies about, how in the slums and in these areas where these, laborers live, there is no iconography of Ambedkar. There is no iconography of our people. So the whole rasa bhava, there is this, void of this huge chunk of people. उनका कुछ है ही नहीं, बस वहाँ पे भी लक्ष्मी और सरस्वती और दुर्गा है, वहाँ पे भी सिर्फ एक ही चीज़ है. It's today that, people like Paranjit or Neeraj Gaiwan, they are able to, show something. And Paranjit is so intelligent that he doesn't even use the word caste. Just with the iconography, a broken, headless statue behind would tell you, what community they come from. Even Malcolm X tells you what community they come from because the Savarnas do not understand the concept of Malcolm X. Baba Saheb gave us hope. He gave us hope irrespective of ages. He gave us hope irrespective of what we do. He gave us hope irrespective of what we read, what we reflect upon, how we are reading. As I said, 26th January was our Independence Day, 15th August was not. And he gave us way forward to live our life, in a way we live. This is my dadi. My dadi was the first Ambedkarite of my family, not my grandfather. So we come from a family where women are way more empowered than men. I have seen my dadi way more empowered than my grandfather. She used to sit in the veranda with her girlfriend smoking hookah and discussing politics. I haven't seen that kind of thing with my grandfather. He was still not that open, would not be discussing politics as my dadi would do. My dada was more of a Ravidasya, and he would like to connect to the spiritual threads through Ravidas. And through Ravidas, he came to know about Baba Saheb Ambedkar, and he was the first person who went to the school. And when my father comes from the time when Dalit Panthers were in there, and I do not come from Maharashtra, so there was a very small effect of Dalit Panthers in Uttar Pradesh, but he was a part of it when he was in college. And and that's how in the family, with Ambedkarism, the education started flowing. Then came the campaign of Manevar Kashiram Sahib, and which gave this new concept of Bahujan Samaj, which is not just including scheduled caste, but also the other oppressed classes like OBCs, even Muslims, and the other religious minorities. He gave us everything that we have today. The freedom of working anywhere, the freedom of making our own houses, the freedom of making viharas, the freedom of even riding bicycles, the freedom of even sitting near books or reading books, the freedom of making our own statues. And there I was, you know, with this whole history, not knowing, you know, what should I do, where I belong to, and, you know, like melting, you know, that I do not know where I stand, where I should go to commercial art, whether I should make my art commercial. I had no clue. I was always living in this inferiority complex, always lying to people. I learned what Gotra I am from some other Brahmin. और मैं जिसको होता था उसको अपना गोत्र बताता था कि देखो मैं भारद्वाज गोत्र. इतना झूठ, 8 साल झूठ, हर कॉलेज में झूठ. He gave me the freedom to become a king. At least in my own mind, you know. Otherwise, my own ancestors they thought of themselves as, you know, because of karma, we are born here, and that's why we are supposed to do this. He made us think that no, we are all equal. We all can be kings of our own lives, because he was the king of his own life. And he gave us this idea, which is not yet been made possible, of having a country which talks about all the people who had made this country. There are not just orange flags, there are also other colors. They are not just, you know, people draped in red and, you know, blue saris or green saris. There are different attires that are, you know, just discarded. They make special tribal museums. Special tribal museums, which amuses me. Because tribal people are the indigenous people of this country, and there are so many tribal people. You are neglecting a huge chunk of population. Almost 70% of these people are from depressed classes. So is this not a colonialism of its own kind? Is it not a fascism of its own kind? I think we are the forefathers of fascism and, you know, dictatorship. Dictatorship of one community. We are the forefathers of slavery, and the worst kind of slavery. A slavery which is generational. You know, it's way longer than the African American culture, African American movement. It has been happening for centuries and centuries. I still think if he had not gone to that college, what they have made in the constitution, what kind of constitution they would have made. And I always rethink about the definition of Dalit. I'm always in this dilemma that, you know, what I am, who I am, and who are these people who are still standing behind me. So this is, you can change the face, and it is you. If you come from the depressed classes, you will understand that, you know, there are still a huge chunk of our population that is working as menial workers, who has no social capital, no cultural capital, and nothing. And there is another chunk of people who are growing, who are going with the Ambedkarite values, going to the schools. It's really difficult for us to get into the schools. Still, we all live this lie that, you know, we do not come from, you know, this particular family. In my childhood, I have been a very lonely kid because of this. Always living alone, always doing my homework alone. Because of, you know, where I come from. And my aim is to not let that happen to the next generation. So today, if I teach design students, if I do something like that, I want to have them, I do not want to have them that life that they had, that I had. When I was in school, I was always feeling inferior. It's difficult to express that, you know, without, you know, being without friends, you become a different person. You know, when you grow old, you are so you have secluded yourself so much. You're not even an artist, you know, who wants that kind of freedom. You have been brought up in that way that, you know, you're so secluded. You never trust people. You are never able to, you know, there is so much happening inside this head. And you always think that, you know, whether things will be better for my kids, whether things will be better for the next generation or not, whether we should work on it or not. And I think most of the people are working on it. Even though they are not a part of this movement, they're spending some money for somebody's education. That's how this whole system is working. That's how my father and my grandfather studied. That's how the other children of my villages are still studying. The villages where we are still kept outside, which are still not, you know, our heaven, which everybody talks about, you know, मेरे को तो खेत में जाके बड़ा मजा, हमारे पास खेत ही नहीं है. घर वहां है जो बाहर है. What is development for us is घर को पक्का कर लिया. And since I live near bank of Ganga, every year there is a flood. You know, development is that we have raised the house. So this is the kind of thing. And you know, there are people in the families who are going to IITs and everything. So I think it will take some 2-3 generations to, you know, have all these makans pakka. But this is a revolution that is happening. And I want you to know that, you know, this is happening, this is working. And yeah, we exist as human beings, as you exist. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Siddhesh, Gautam. I'm so sorry that we are running late in the festival, which is why I do not have time to take questions today, Siddhesh, but that was amazing. Inspirational images. Could not fit better into the theme of this festival. Thank you so much for coming. It really makes a huge difference. Thank you so much to Arijit Sen for coming here and welcoming Bakeryprasad to Goa. Thank you very much. Please keep your seats for the next session, which will begin exactly 2 minutes. Thank you. Thank you, Siddhesh.